Okay, so in this tutorial we are going to look at creating some interaction with objects. So you can see I've got my player here. So my basic game at the moment, we've set up some collisions, so my player can move on the arrow keys, and we've got basic collisions set up between the boundaries here. What we want to do is have it so that when my player comes into contact with this other object here, which is the O helper, we want a message to appear, and if we collect the apple, we want the apple to disappear, and then we want to be able to collect the chocolate bar. But what we're going to do is, to make it a little bit more complex, we're going to add in a if statement to say that if we try to collect the chocolate bar before the apple, we're not going to let our player do this. So it's a little bit of logic, nice and easy, and we'll get going. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to have to work out a way to get our message to appear. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to put the message appearing at the bottom of this screen here. Now on the side, on the right hand side, you can see I've got some objects already. One of them is Game Manager. So what I'm going to do is just draw a rectangle at the bottom here. I'm going to use a Draw GUI event to do this. You don't have to, but it does give you a few advantages if we were to do that. So I'm going to click on Add Event, Draw GUI. And what we could do is you could have this fading in, fading out only when messages are appearing, right? But I'm not going to do that on this example. We're just going to do it straight away. So in the Draw GUI event of the Game Manager, we are going to look for a draw rectangle. So I'm going to drag that in, and you can see I've got left, top, right, bottom. Now before we do that, I just need to get the rough sort of area. So it's this area here at the bottom. So if I go with my mouse and keep an eye on this these bottom numbers here, it needs to start about sort of 670 pixels down. So if I go back to my workspace, and we say, right, okay, but left is going to be 0, top is going to be 670, right, I'm going to cheat now a little bit, and I'm going to say room width, and I'm going to say then same then bottom room height. And what we're going to do is also make sure we choose a fill color. So I'm going to use this pink bucket at the top here. I'm going to make sure this is ticked, and by default there it's white. So let's change the color to make it stand out a little bit. So I'm going to go with a yellow. I'm going to click OK, and let's just run that now to see what that's done. Okay, so quite nicely there, you can see we've got now a yellow patch right at the bottom. It's always visible, it's always going to be there. That's absolutely fine for this quick tutorial. So far so good. We've made a little banner here. So the next thing we're going to do now is have some form of interaction with our helper. So what we are going to do is I'm going to open the O helper, and we are going to get a message to appear. Now before we do that, let's just think about this. We need to know how far away my player is from this object here. So we need to work out the distance between them. Now fortunately GameMaker does have a few things there to help us. So what I'm going to do is in our Game helper, I'm going to add an event, which is going to be a create event, and I'm going to create a variable called distance, and I'm going to set it to 0. And what I want to do is I want that distance to update all of the time. So I'm going to add another event, and this time we're going to add what's called a step event. And inside this step event, we're going to add in another variable, and we're going to say distance again. And this time I'm going to work out the difference between the O helper, and I want to know the position of the O helper's X minus the O player X. Now notice I put a dot X and dot X on the end of these. That gets me the X variable. Now I'm also going to put in, just to show and make it visible for now, I'm going to get a debug message, and we're just going to output the distance variable here. So let's play that. Okay, let's see what that does. So at the bottom now you can see it says 896 in this output, and if I move towards the right you can see this number's going down, 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 down until where if I stop there, if I keep on going and we go past, it goes in then to a negative number. Okay, so I don't need to worry about that negative at the moment, but obviously we're coming in between a certain number. Now what I'm going to do is get the message to appear really when we're about 140, well 135 sort of pixels away. So in order to do that, we now need, because we've got our distance worked out, we need to, I'm just going to delete that for a second, we're going to add in another draw GUI event, and this time I'm going to use a little bit of logic. So I'm going to use my if statement, and I'm going to say distance. So if the variable distance is less than, we'll start with 140. So if it's less than 140, I'm going to do something over here. So let's go and get some text in. So I'm going to say important, oh, the guide says, and I'm going to use what's called an escape character, this \n, and what that does is it puts anything I want then onto a new line. Please get the apple before the chocolate bar. So this is a really good way to give our player instructions, right? Or you could have like little wizards throughout the game just to point the player in the right direction. So if we just play that, and let's see what happens now. So you can see nothing's appearing on screen at the moment. If we just walk over towards, now we're nowhere near the 140. Let's go, and all of a sudden we're now within this 140. So my player's less than 140 away. You can see the message has appeared in the top corner here. Now obviously we didn't want the message to appear there, we want it to be down the bottom, and it's obviously chosen yellow. The reason it's chosen yellow is because yellow is the last colour we used. So let's sort that out. I'm going to put it in the Y position of 700, so 700 pixels down, and let's set the draw colour. Let's set it to a black, because black on white, sorry, black on yellow looks easy to read. So let's try that again. And let's go down, 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 down. And there you are. Look, the guide says perfect. Now let's see what happens when we go away. And there we are. When we've gone away from the guide, that's fine. Now what you will notice, there's not a bug, but there is a little bit of an issue with the way we've done this. If I was doing this properly in the game, I'd look at the X and the Y position of this. As we're only looking at the X, it doesn't matter where you are, if you're up here or if you are indeed right next to the player, this will work, right? And the reason this works is because obviously it's just looking at one axis. It's comparing the position X here to the player X here. So if I was going to do this again, I'd basically say, look, if the X is less than whatever and the Y is less than whatever, then show the message. And that would be as simple as just adding another one of these if blocks in to look at the difference between the X and the Y there. Okay, so we've got some basic things working here. So let's now just go down to the apple, and what I want to do is just do a really quick collision between the apple and the player. So if I double click on the apple object, and let's add an event, and let's do a collision event with the object player, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a destroy instance. So that's just going to get rid of it at the moment. So essentially destroy the instance of it, get rid of it when we hit. Just play, let's try that. Let's go down, let's go down, let's go down. Lovely, the message appears, let's go down, bang, lovely. So now we've got rid of the apple, that's absolutely fine, that's good. And let's go back up towards the chocolate bar. Now we haven't done anything with the chocolate bar at the moment, but we do need to do a test. Now as I said earlier, what we want to do is tell the player that you need to go and get the apple before you get the chocolate bar, right? So think of it like having a bullet for your gun, right? Or a potion before you go and see the witch, whatever you want to do with this. So what we need to do is we need to have some form of trigger. Now the way I'm going to do a trigger is I'm going to use a variable, and I'm going to use a global variable. Now I don't normally use global variables, but for this purpose I am. So I'm going to double click on the OGame manager, and because the game manager is in my game always, so I'm going to click on add event and create. And what I'm going to do is drag in my thing here, and I'm going to say global.apple, and I'm going to set this to false. Now the reason I want this in my game manager is because I'm going to destroy an apple, right? And once I destroy it, I'm not going to be able to reference it. So I make the variable here in the game manager, and because it's global, it's viewable by everything. So we've set it to false, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my apple, and inside this collision, when I've collided, I want to say apple. No, in fact I don't. I want to say global apple, and I'm going to set this value to true. So basically, when the game is started, global apple is set to false. When we collide with the apple, it's going to be set to true. And it's this trigger that we are going to use to check to see if the chocolate bar, let's see if we can get it, basically. So let's go and just try this out. Just make sure everything works. It should not work, but let's just make sure it does, and make sure it doesn't give any errors. Lovely, it doesn't give any errors, so I know everything I've done works so far. Okay, let's close that, and let's go to my chocolate bar. And what we're going to do is we're going to do another collision now with the chocolate bar. So if I click on add event, and let's go to collision with the object player. And before we do this, you can see I've already got a variable here. I'm just going to delete that because I don't need that. So in my object player collision here, so when the player collides with the chocolate bar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a really quick test. So I'm going to say if the global apple, so if the global apple is equal to true, then what we want to do is we want to destroy that instance. Okay, now just to test this, let's see what it'll do. So if we go down here, now I'm going to go on purpose and try and grab the chocolate. So I'm trying to grab the chocolate, but obviously nothing's happening to the chocolate. Let's go back down to the apple. I got the apple this time. Let's go back up to the chocolate. Bang, lovely. So you can see that little piece of logic now helps us to basically get certain objects in order. Now you can do that if you wanted, let's say for example, you have to get things in a certain sequence or a certain order. You could do these if statements just to basically see, look, has this one been had? Yes. Has this one been had? No. Okay, go back and get that one first. Now wouldn't it be nice though if we had a mechanism to basically say, look, if we're trying to get the chocolate bar, so let me just start that again. So wouldn't it be nice if we had, obviously we've got the warning here, the guide says, but wouldn't it be nice if we had, right, let's go try and get the chocolate bar, another message appearing saying, go and get the apple. So let's now look at how we can do that. Now, fortunately, there's a few different things that we can do. The first thing that we are going to look at is using a draw event. So let's open up our chocolate bar. And I'm going to add in an event, so I'm going to click on add, go to draw, and I'm going to go to draw GUI. And what we're going to do, we're going to use the same sort of logic as we used before. So I'm going to say, right, draw this, so global dot apple. So if the global apple is false, what we need to do then is we can use a draw value. And what we can say is important. Go and get the apple. Okay, so let's just try that and see what this does. Okay, so the problem we got now at the moment is as soon as the program loads, it's doing this test to say, look, have we got the apple? And you can see there, look, it's saying, nah, you haven't got the apple. So it's pulling this up here. Now, not only is it in the wrong place, but we need it down here, it's the wrong color, and it's just coming up straight away. So what we need to do is add another test in. So just before I do that, I'm just going to move that down to 700 again. and we're going to set the draw color to something black. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to do another quick test, and we're going to use an if object at place, which is here. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of reordering here, so bear with. Okay, so what I've done, just to show you, is reordered this. So this is now what the logic looks like. So we're basically saying, like, if the global apple is set to false, and what we're going to do then is say, because we're doing this inside the chocolate bar event, if the object, or if the player object is 0, with the chocolate bar, then we're going to display this message. This is only going to display if we touch the chocolate bar. Now this might, I think I can spotted a really quick error here. The this here needs to be above. My bad. So the color needs to be above the text. There you are. Important. Go and get the apple because it's touching. Let's get away from there, and you can see there now it has disappeared. Let's just test. Lovely. Okay, so you can see now we've had menus appearing, text appearing rather. If you wanted to, you could take this a little step further, and you could do another little bit of logic to say that once you've had the apple, the next time we appear close to this player, you could say, right, go and get the chocolate. So you then really sort of diversify the menu. You could also have a hidden piece here if you really wanted, which could disintegrate as soon as you hit the apple, and then that would allow you in, almost like a secret hidden chamber. But you can see this is how you would put a lot of text events into your game to give your player a little bit of help and to give them a little bit of direction as they wander around the game.